that just a mouth? When you read that out loud and say it again, you're like, oh my gosh. I'm part of the South, the southern part of America, and that funky gumbo that doesn't make sense, but when you're standing in the middle of it, it does. You know, my roots within conjuring and hoodoo are through my grandmother, and of course, you know, the land I stood on. Later on, being exposed to voodoo through a mentor, a Haitian voodoo priest. And then in the middle of that, I decided that I want to put on a pointy black hat. You know, I went through the preteen of be a witch. And somewhere here in the past many years, I realized I stand on a crossroads. I don't have to be any of it, but I can be all of it. So I identify as a crossroads witch. But I'm a very proud Southern conjuring crossroads witch. I was a storyteller first. And in the process of storytelling, writing them down, I became a writer. And over the years have worked to get better at it because it is a way to convey wisdom, experience, knowledge, you know, and I enjoy it. You know, I find that, you know, that late in life and you realize, wow, I want to do this. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. It's never too late. Oh, that's a really good question. I want to start with first, I think that the Book of Psalms has always been a bestseller. uh, but Hoodoo in the Psalms for me was a love letter to my grandmother. As she was a primitive Baptist, faith healing, the use of the Psalms in mystical practices, however you want to define those, for healing, prosperity, or sometimes telling so-and-so to go away. But I was exposed to that. And I lost my grandma. She decided to, you know, in my 20s is when she passed. And being able to go back with more wisdom, more experiences, and look at what my grandma was doing was the initial motivator for it. And then the magic in the Psalms was it just, well, all I can say is it tingles your toes when you get into it. You know, these are the songs that folks for thousands of years have sung out to divinity. And so when you're saying them, you're grabbing all that energy. And so I think for folks, just even learning a couple of little verses and saying them out loud, they're like, this is good stuff, you know? The Psalms I always talk about, I think the biggest thing I have to get over with the Psalms is people think it's Christian, and understanding that they predate Christianity by, you know, over 1,800 years. These go back to the time of King David, King Solomon, who later on, you know, the Keys of Solomon, and that what was it? The demon ring, the 72 names of demons, the beginning of occult philosophy. That whole time period is where the Psalms were sitting too. All right, these are some powerful incantations. And a lot of times we joke about the best place to hide something is in plain sight. You know, and there lay the Psalms. All right, that is magic hidden in plain sight. That is our voices to divinity, you know? And so I think it resonates with a lot of folks, especially as they learn more. I know a lot of times within the contemporary pagan community, the Christianity, they look, you know, a little wanting to get away from that. but understanding they're getting away from this modern organization, not the actual history of, and that there were other points in Christianity, especially when you get into early Christianity, it was full of mysticism and magic. You know, I mean, you can end up a whole nother video on this one and everything. But needless to say, I think it resonates with folks, is why it is a bestseller. And I'm just so proud of it, is what I have to say. First, for 3 years, I've had a YouTube channel. I decided to my way of giving back to a community that's given me so much, and leaning into our social media and the way our younger generation, our younger magic folk are connecting, and my own opportunity, like I said, to be able to pass on a lot of things that I've learned over the years, give terrible warnings for things I've done where I'm the witch that presses that button 7 times before I'll be like, does it really not work? And encouraging our next generation. I think I've reached that point in my own practice where I realize it's about the next generation coming behind me, the magic community at large, whatever your flavor. And my channel is based on, it being a place of empowerment, inspirational encouragement type content. And also for the experienced older witches to come sit and hear me tell some of my stories and laugh and agree with me, because they'll be like, oh, I did that too. I know, but it's very important to be able to give back to this community, the magic community at large. I've been a part of for 40 years, and it has been nothing but amazing to me. The witch I was in my 20s, and what I was doing then, and then I can see in the 30s, my 40s, now I'm my 50s, leaning towards my 60s, and this is an amazing community to be a part of. And I want to make sure that everything that was freely given to me in some way, I pass it to the next generation. So that's my YouTube channel. That, and I just have fun witchy tips and hacks. Oh, that's too funny. That's what I was talking about. I'm a storyteller. My writing regime is to go out, experience it, and have something to write about. Wait for the story to happen, and then be like, ooh, this is good. I got to, the stories that we sit telling folks are the ones we need to write down. That's the experience. Go live it and then write it. I don't actually have a regime. Like I said, I sort of wait for something interesting to happen. And that's it. I know there's other writers out there that vary regime and have, but each to their own, and, figuring out a way that works for you. That's sort of hard off the top of my head, because the first thing I always tell folks, Grimm brothers, I know it's 2 of them, but the Grimm brothers, good fairy tales. They're full of so much magic, morals, ethics, questions, dilemmas, and the brothers Grimm had a great writing, storytelling. And I have a copy on my bookshelf. And I think for me, as far as who I read to really appreciate would be Nora Zeal Hurston, Go Tell My Mule. She's an African-American writer, and she wrote about the Southern experience. She also is an anthropologist, went to Jamaica and Haiti during a time when nobody was recording what was happening, and she did. But if you get into her books, she's a great storyteller. And that is, I think I really appreciate that. Um, Writers that are good storytellers, they take you to their world, makes you want to go there. You know, that's what inspires me. I am so excited about Conjuring Dirt. As I said, Hoodoo in the Psalms was a love letter to my grandma. Conjuring Dirt was a love letter to me. And just the reaffirming what I was, earlier, the funky gumbo of the South, because, gumbo for us it shows all the different cultures, all of the different influences this area has had, going on 400 or 500 years now. All right. And that I'm a part of that and celebrating it and celebrating my dirt. And at the same time, being able to inspire others to celebrate their personal dirt, to start understanding those spirits of place, to understand that when we hold a handful of dirt, we're holding the entire world in our hands. Just for a moment, we have everything that ever existed and everything that ever will exist. And this beautiful liminal space that dirt can create for us. And I was very privileged, again, in the South, this connection is still kept alive in many places. And that's why it's, the dirt of footprints and understanding not only the footprints that we take today, but past footprints, our ancestral footprints, and the footprints that we have of, the spirit world, those magical, mystical places we feel, the local spirits, and that they're part of the dirt of that place. And then from there, with Crossroads, which is something I personally am learning to embrace, but also understanding crossroads occur everywhere and within everything, and how powerful they are, both in physical spaces as well as in liminal spaces, and the magic that's contained within them. And then my personal favorite, that's where my conjuring side comes out, and my little bit of necromancy, is the magic of the cemetery, the magic of the graveyard, and wanting to share these stories and being able to also, hopefully in a way, give people responsible, respectful ways to go down that for themselves without it being the scary woo-woo stuff. I think I got frustrated when it comes to graveyard magic. A lot of times that it's either very woo-woo or it's just so irreverent that I'm like, no. These are ancestors to somebody. Yeah, this is very sacred dirt. We have to walk gently upon it. But when we learn to walk gently upon it, the connections that we can create with our own ancestors and with other spirits, entities, deities that are within this realm, really strengthen our own personal sense of who we are in this moment. So I was so very proud. It's been a couple of years for me between Hoodoo and the Psalms and Conjuring Dirt, because I guess I wanted to get it right. I wanted to make sure that this was put out there in a way that is very respectful. That, funky gumbo that I sit upon. We have to always remember when we're dealing with gumbo, gumbo is okra. Okra is an African base. And for me, as an offshoot within that Southern conjuring realm where I do pick up those European, I pick up those Protestant, influences, making sure that I use my words wisely and that I give credit where credit's due and I cite my sources. And I think with Conjuring Dirt, I'm very proud of that. And I really look forward to everybody reading it and everybody, looking at their dirt underneath their feet just a little different. That's like a really tough question. You're like 1 minute. I would want, I think, just words of empowerment, that, you're going to get through it at high school doesn't matter. I think would be the biggest thing, 15-year-old, because you're at that age where you're in high school and you think that everything in high school somehow is world ending. It's going to last forever. It gets better. This is just a moment, words of encouragement, empowerment. I wouldn't want to try to do stock tips or anything. I'm sitting here thinking, I don't really want to change too much because then you're altering where I sit today. And I'm pretty damn good with who I am right now in this moment. And I'm happy for all of those bruised knees, all of those moments of me struggling. It just makes us more meaningful. And so I look back upon all that and I'm like, yeah, every one of those mistakes, wrong turns, missteps, in the end had purpose for me. And so I really don't want to tell her too much, but at the same time, I want her to know you're going to be good. See, this was a wrong question because I'm like American. I'm thinking, my first thought was, oh my God, I'd have to invite Ronald Hutton, Dr. Angela Pucca, premier occult academia, and then you're like American. And I'm like, they're Italian and British. And then I have to go back to, my Southern roots and think, well, Miss Dolly Parton, she's like a saint for us in my area of the woods. So I would have to have Dolly Parton, first of all, as a good Southern person. And then thinking through on it, I'm like, we always go for our mainstays with, of course, Marie Laveau, our New Orleans voodoo queen. And then someone like, Miss Caroline Dye, who was a premier businesswoman during the late 1880s. She ended up having a very large tarot reading business, although she did use playing cards. She just did readings and workings for folk, and she was located in Arkansas, and people would travel for days to come to her. So I think about that, and then again, I'm going back to that Southern part. I'm like, well, if I have these folks at the table, of course I got to have my best friend. So I'd have to say I have to invite my best friend so that she could enjoy it too. I don't have a serious table. I think, no, I don't really, I would want some of the folks that are from within my own personal context of history and the opportunity to sit and talk with them. Although I don't know if Dolly Parton would want to sit next to Marie Laveau. We could have some problems with the sitting at the table part, but I think she'd be polite to her, I think it's colorful women is who I would want sitting at my table. Women who, went outside the bounds, who decided very much to do it their way. I I think that's what the common trait all these folks have in common. And so I think it would be, any American woman that's like done it is, I just have so much respect for. And the opportunity to sit and listen to their stories, I think would be a privilege. My top tip for an aspiring writer would be to go out and experience it and then write about it. Our best writing, the best way we can convey knowledge is when we ourselves have experienced it. Go out and live your life and embrace all those opportunities. And when those good stories happen, go home and write them down. And just let it slowly happen. Don't force yourself, Get out there, live your life, and I guarantee you're going to have an interesting story to tell somebody.